You sat down at your 30th birthday dinner, believing this would finally be the night your family raised their glasses to celebrate you. The resort in Myrtle Beach shimmered under the soft glow of the ocean waves, as if promising a perfect evening. But within minutes, you realized everything was far from what you imagined. Forced smiles, distant eyes, and then your sister's sharp remark cut through the air, turning your special day into a wound you couldn't ignore. That night didn't just leave you with pain. It sparked a turning point that no one expected. If you'd like to follow more stories filled with raw emotions and powerful lessons, gently like and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. You remember being 25, standing on the edge of what felt like the biggest breakthrough of your life. At that time, your career in marketing was just beginning to take shape, and suddenly, a major client gave you the chance to prove yourself. It was the kind of project that could have placed your name on the map. You spent countless nights bent over your laptop, polishing presentations, editing pitch decks, and fine-tuning every detail. The glow of the screen became your closest companion, and every chart, every line of text, carried the weight of your ambition. But just as success was within reach, everything shifted. Your parents' small marketing firm, the business they had poured their lives into, was collapsing. One bad deal had left them drowning in debt, and the future looked uncertain. At that moment, you faced a choice. Keep chasing your dream or walk away and try to save theirs. Without hesitation, you turned your back on the project you had built from scratch, packed your things, and boarded a flight home. From that day on, your world revolved around saving what your parents had nearly lost. By day, you pored over contracts, searching for loopholes and renegotiating terms. By night, you drafted new strategies and brainstormed campaigns that might keep the company alive. Every sentence you wrote, every idea you pitched, felt like a lifeline not just for the business, but for your family's pride. The employees, once disheartened, began to find hope again because of your determination. You still remember the first small client you managed to secure after months of setbacks. It wasn't a big win, but it reignited trust. Slowly, deal after deal, the firm started to breathe again. And all of it came from the energy you had poured in, the vision you had carried when everyone else was ready to give up. People around the office knew it. They whispered that without you, the company would never have survived. Naturally, you believed your parents would acknowledge this sacrifice. You thought they would finally see you not just as their child, but as the person who had pulled them out of despair. Yet when stability returned, they announced something that broke you. They handed the company over to your sister. Their words still ring in your ears. She had more experience, she could keep things steady. On the surface, it sounded reasonable. But beneath those words lay a truth you could not ignore. Everything you had done was erased in an instant. The day they told you, the weight in your chest was unbearable. All those sleepless nights, all those dreams abandoned, every ounce of yourself you had poured into their survival, it was dismissed with a shrug. Not even a simple thank you. Instead, you became a shadow standing behind someone else's glory. It was then you decided to leave. With a heart heavy from disappointment, you walked away and started over, this time on your own terms. The path was not glamorous. Entry-level positions replaced the prestige you had once been promised. Rejections piled up. There were nights when you wondered if you'd ever rise again. But you never let go of your drive. Through perseverance, you began climbing step by step. From unnoticed roles, you gradually became someone colleagues respected. Campaigns bore your signature creativity, and clients praised the results you delivered. Each recognition was like a fragment of yourself coming back together, rebuilding the confidence that had been stripped away. Still, whenever you returned home or spoke to your parents, the same pattern repeated. Conversations circled around your sister, her leadership, her wins, her so-called brilliance. Your own milestones were brushed aside with a nod at best. And though you learned to carry the silence, the wound it left never fully healed. That is why your 30th birthday dinner meant more than just a celebration. It was your hope, fragile but real, that maybe this time they would finally see you. After years of sacrifice, you wanted even a small moment of recognition, a place at the table not as an afterthought, but as someone who mattered. Instead, what you received was cold indifference. Instead of warmth, there were forced smiles. And then came your sister's cutting words, turning what should have been your night into another reminder of how little you meant to them. If you've ever sacrificed for others only to be forgotten, you know the kind of pain that settles deep within you. Yet out of that pain, something stronger can be born. It shapes your resolve. It reminds you that no matter how others see you, you still have the power to define yourself. And that is where your story takes its turn, from being overlooked to reclaiming your own worth. If this journey stirs something in you, take a quiet moment to press like or subscribe. Think of it not just as supporting a story, but as joining a space where voices like yours are finally heard, where resilience and self-respect are celebrated. Time passed, and your relentless dedication slowly carved a place for you in the marketing world. Campaigns bearing your touch started to stand out, not just for their creativity, but for their impact. Colleagues began to mention your name with respect, and clients sought you out for the results you delivered. Piece by piece, you rebuilt what once had been stripped away, the confidence that you truly belonged. And so, when you turned 30, you wanted something simple but deeply personal. A night where your family would sit together, raise their glasses, and finally acknowledge you. Not your clients, not your co-workers, just the people who had watched you grow. You chose Myrtle Beach, imagining the sunset spilling gold over the ocean, and waves humming like a song to honor your new decade. At the elegant seaside restaurant, you reserved a table and pictured laughter, warmth, and connection. That evening, walking into the dining room, you carried a fragile hope. The table gleamed under soft light, the setting was perfect. You told yourself, this time will be different. Just this once, you wanted to be seen. But even before the appetizers arrived, the air felt wrong. Your sister claimed the spotlight effortlessly, her voice filling the room as she detailed her new contracts and meetings with high-profile executives. She painted herself as the backbone of the family business, as if every victory existed because of her. Your mother's eyes glowed with pride, nodding eagerly at every word. Your father swirled his drink, offering nothing more than a faint grunt. Across the table, your sister's husband scrolled through his phone, chiming in only with distracted murmurs. You waited patiently, hoping for a pause to share your own story. When the moment came, you spoke about a recent campaign that had landed your company a major client. For you, it was a milestone worth celebrating. But your mother brushed it aside with a polite "that's nice, dear," close quote, before turning back to ask your sister about her next deal. The smile froze on your face. Inside, something cracked. You tried again, bringing up the marketing award you had been nominated for, believing maybe this would catch their attention. But before you could finish, your sister cut in, her words tumbling over yours, dragging the spotlight back to her triumphs. Your father didn't even look up. It was as if your voice dissolved the moment it touched the air. Each time you spoke, the dismissal stung sharper. The meal stretched on, and every laugh, every nod of admiration directed at her felt like a wall pushing you further into the shadows. You had spent weeks imagining this dinner as a moment of belonging. Instead, you were reduced to a silent observer at your own celebration. The more your sister bragged, the smaller you felt. Her stories grew louder, more dramatic, as though she wanted the entire room to know she was the only one worth admiring. Your mother leaned across the table to pat her hand, calling her the glue that held the family together. Your father offered his quiet agreement, eyes still on his glass. Not one glance toward you. Not one word that said you mattered. You sipped your wine to steady yourself, but the ache in your chest only deepened. You had one more story to share, a new project you had poured your soul into. You thought, maybe this time. But before you finished, your sister smirked and changed the subject, the venom in her tone hidden beneath casual banter. Some people peak early, close quote, she said. Not everyone can keep up. The words hit like a blade. Your sister's husband chuckled, your mother busied herself with her napkin, and your father shrugged as if nothing had been said. Their silence cut deeper than her insult. You clenched your fork, your knuckles whitening, but kept your face calm. You smiled faintly, nodding, pretending her words slid off you. Yet inside, you were trembling. How could the people you had sacrificed for treat you as if you were invisible? All you wanted was for someone to speak up, to stop the cruelty. But no one did. Not your mother, not your father. They let the words hang heavy in the air, as though they agreed. And in that moment, a truth pierced through you more painful than anything else. You had never truly been seen. This was supposed to be your night. Your birthday. Yet instead of being celebrated, you were diminished, erased, made into the butt of a joke. You looked around the table, realizing you were not a guest of honor, but a ghost in the family's story. If you have ever sat among people you love and felt utterly alone, you understand the weight pressing on your chest. It is a loneliness deeper than silence, one that leaves you gasping for recognition that never comes. But sometimes, it is in those very moments of hurt that a new strength is born. A strength that whispers you no longer need their approval to shine. That night, amid the clinking glasses and hollow laughter, you felt something shift inside you. The wounds were real, but so was the fire they sparked. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where you would no longer beg to be seen, but stand tall on your own. And if this story resonates with you, take a quiet moment to tap like or subscribe. Think of it not as following a channel, but as choosing to stand with stories that refuse to be silenced, stories like yours, filled with courage, resilience, and the strength to keep going. The dinner carried on, but every sound around you felt hollow. Your sister's laughter, your mother's glowing admiration, and your father's silence wrapped together like a closed circle, leaving you stranded outside of it. You sat there, forcing a smile, trying to keep up with the rhythm of the table, yet deep down you knew you were nothing more than a shadow at your own celebration. As the main course was served, you hoped the mood might soften, that conversation might shift to something lighter. But you were wrong. Your sister set her glass down with a sharp clink, her eyes gleaming with a cruel spark. Then, in front of everyone, she said, "Still single at your age? What's there to be proud of?" Close quote. Her words cracked the air, slicing through whatever thin layer of peace remained. The table froze. It felt like a slap across your face, leaving your chest tight, your breath caught. You looked around, desperate for someone to speak, to intervene. Yet the silence was deafening. Your sister's husband let out a quiet laugh, as though it were nothing more than harmless banter. Your mother dropped her gaze to her napkin, fingers twisting the fabric, rather than meeting your eyes. Your father tipped his glass, taking a slow drink, his expression unreadable. The silence dragged on, and the silence itself hurt more than the words. You steadied yourself, lips trembling but holding a faint smile. "I'm just enjoying my own path," close quote, you replied, your voice sounding calm, though your heart was racing. Inside, the words echoed again and again, but she wasn't finished. She leaned forward, feigning casualness, her tone dripping with poison disguised as lightheartedness. "Not everyone can keep up," close quote, she added. "Some people peak early and then fade out." The second blow landed harder than the first. Her husband smirked, amused. Your mother muttered something meaningless about the food, still refusing to look at you. Your father stared elsewhere, lost in thought, as if you weren't even part of the room. Your hand tightened around your fork until your knuckles turned white. Outwardly, you remained composed, your face neutral, your posture steady. But inside, waves of anger and grief crashed violently, begging to be released. You longed to shout, to demand they face the truth of their cruelty. But you held back, knowing any words would only be twisted, used against you. The dinner dragged on, every sound around you exaggerated in your ears. The clink of cutlery became unbearable, the laughter pierced like needles. You were physically present, but your mind drifted far away. You asked yourself why you still tried, why you still hoped for a recognition that would never come. When dessert arrived, you knew you could no longer endure it. Your sister's smug grin, your mother's avoidance, your father's indifference, all of it pressed down until breathing felt like a battle. You placed your napkin gently on the table, rose to your feet, and excused yourself. Outside, the night air swept against your skin, cool but unable to soothe the fire raging within. You stood by the railings, staring out at the dark waves crashing against the shore. For the first time, you felt the full weight of betrayal, heavy and inescapable. For years, you had traded your dreams to keep the world intact. You had swallowed every slight, hoping patience would someday be rewarded. And yet here you were, your efforts erased by a single cruel remark, sanctioned by silence. It wasn't just hurt, it was abandonment. And yet, beneath the pain, something stirred. A spark. A flame of resolve you hadn't felt in years. The realization that no matter how much you gave, they would never see you, never value you, not in the way you deserved. But maybe, you no longer needed them to. You returned to your room, the ache still raw in your chest. You sat on the bed, the quiet pressing in around you. Her words replayed endlessly in your mind, each echo sharper than the last. But this time, alongside the pain, there was something else. Strength, simmering and new. You realized that waiting for their approval was a cage you'd built for yourself. If you continued, you would spend your life chasing validation that would never come. It was time to step into the light on your own terms. It was time to stop being a ghost in their story and finally write your own. That night, back in your hotel room, you sat on the edge of the bed, mind still reeling from what had unfolded at the dinner table. Your sister's cutting words echoed like a cruel refrain, and your parents' silence weighed heavier than any insult. You stared into the dim light, wondering why you had ever hoped things would be different. Then, your phone buzzed. An email notification lit up the screen. The sender's name made your heart skip. Marie, the very partner your sister had boasted about so often. You opened it cautiously, eyes scanning each line. Marie described a nationwide marketing project she was leading and wanted you to step in as the lead strategist. She had followed your recent campaigns, admired your ability to turn ideas into results, and believed you were the right person to bring the vision to life. Your breath caught. At first, you couldn't believe it. For years, you had lived in your sister's shadow, erased by your parents' indifference. Yet here was an opportunity offered directly to you, without hesitation, without your sister's name attached. But along with the thrill came doubt. If you accepted, your sister would see it as betrayal. Your parents would surely side with her, turning their disappointment on you yet again. Could you withstand the storm that would follow? You paced the room, your reflection stretched across the wall by the lamp's glow. Memories pressed in, sacrificing your own dream at 25 to save the family company, pouring yourself into campaigns only to watch your sister claim the credit, waiting endlessly for a recognition that never came. Enough was enough. You sat down at the desk, opened your laptop, and began to type. Each word of your reply to Marie flowed with clarity. Your enthusiasm for the project, your strategic direction, your readiness to lead. When you hit send, your hands trembled not with fear, but with resolve. The next morning, you called Marie. Her voice was warm, professional, impressed by your ideas. Not once did she mention your sister. This was your moment. Yours alone. But your family didn't see it that way. Days later, your mother called. Her tone was clipped, urgent. Your sister's overwhelmed. You need to step in. Family comes first. Before you could answer, your father's voice broke in, heavy and demanding. Don't be selfish. Think about the greater good. Your sister is carrying the business. Every explanation you tried to offer, every word about the project that could redefine your career was cut off. Your mother snapped, if you walk away now, you'll regret it. The call ended, but the sting remained. Once again, they weren't asking. They were ordering. To them, your role had never changed. Be the safety net, sacrifice yourself so your sister could shine. As if that wasn't enough, your sister struck on social media. She posted a long, venomous rant calling you ungrateful, accusing you of abandoning the family for your fancy little career. She tagged your parents, painting herself as the selfless one, while portraying you as selfish. Comments poured in, friends of the family siding with her, applauding her sacrifice, condemning you without knowing the truth. You scrolled through the reactions, stomach twisting, then closed the app. Fighting her publicly would only drag you into her game. Instead, you poured everything into the project with Marie. You built charts, wrote strategies, analyzed competitors. Each draft tightened your vision. Every detail you refined felt like reclaiming the years that had been stolen from you. Finally, the day came. Marie scheduled a presentation at the family company. You arrived early, set up the materials, and steadied your nerves. When Marie entered, she greeted you with trust in her eyes. You began your presentation, your voice strong, your vision laid out with precision. Midway through, the door swung open, rattling the blinds. Your sister stormed in, her face flushed with anger, eyes darting between you and Marie. Without waiting, she dropped into a chair, launching into boasts about her latest achievements, loudly listing contracts and deals. Every word dripped with an attempt to seize back the spotlight. Marie stayed composed. She nodded politely, but her attention quickly returned to you. Her questions were sharp, deliberate, and her focus never wavered. For the first time in years, you felt the weight shift. You answered with confidence, explaining your vision step by step, each word adding to the case you were building for your leadership. Then you made a choice. The truth had been buried for too long. The campaign that saved this company back then, you said evenly, I was the one who created it. The room froze. Your sister's eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. Marie raised her brows, intrigued. I didn't realize you were behind that, she said. That explains a lot. Your sister flushed crimson, gripping the table edge. She tried to redirect, boasting louder, but Marie gently steered the conversation back to you. By the end, her verdict was clear. You lead this project. You didn't gloat. The victory wasn't in humiliating your sister, it was in being recognized at last. But the storm had only begun. Days later, Marie called you in privately. Her tone was serious. She revealed what you had long suspected. Your sister had been taking credit for your work. Campaigns, proposals, ideas all presented as hers. The evidence was in the records, and your performance had confirmed it. Soon, the board launched a review. They combed through years of documents. Drafts in your handwriting, proposals once marked with your name, later erased and replaced by hers. The proof was undeniable. The result came swiftly. Your sister was stripped of her managerial title, demoted to a junior role, and issued a formal warning. The office buzzed with whispers. Her empty corner office was a daily reminder of how quickly her influence had collapsed. Then came your parents. They approached your desk, pale and uneasy. Your mother's voice trembled. We didn't realize how much you did for us, she admitted. We trusted her too much. Your father avoided your gaze, his words heavy. We need you to step up now. The company is struggling without her. The irony cut deep. For years, they had overlooked you, praising her, trusting her. Now, when her facade had shattered, they turned to you not out of choice, but necessity. Yet, in their reluctant words, there was recognition. Late, imperfect, but real. That moment crystallized what you already knew. True acknowledgement doesn't come from waiting for others to see your worth. It comes from daring to speak, to claim your place, even when the world tries to silence you. Their plea hung in the air, but you felt no temptation. Years of sacrifice had already taught you the cost. Calmly, you answered, I've given enough. You have to figure this out without me. Their silence said more than words. For the first time, they understood. And as you walked away, you felt lighter than you ever had before. This wasn't revenge, it was release. You were no longer their backup plan, no longer the forgotten child. With Marie's support, you had found your own path. And this time, nothing and no one could drag you back into the shadows. In the end, you realized the deepest wounds didn't come from harsh words, but from the silence of those who should have stood by you. Yet it was that very silence that pushed you to rise, to choose your own path. You no longer looked for recognition in your family's eyes, because you finally understood your worth had never depended on their approval. Your value was written in every late night of perseverance, in every effort no one could deny. Your story did not close with revenge, but with release. You walked forward lighter, stronger, knowing you had the power to shape your life on your own terms. The scars may remain, but they are not marks of weakness, they are reminders of how far you've come, of the strength it took to step away. And if you believe that everyone deserves to live in the light of their own making, take a quiet moment to tap like and subscribe. Not just as support, but as a way to spread stories